Dig Dug on the Atari 5200. What an excellent version of this game. Just like Joust, this is very similar to the Atari 7800 version of Dig Dug, which came out several years later. I love that Dig Dug shows no remorse and shoots the enemies in the back as they're running for cover. The enemies in Dig Dug are particularly despicable because they'll stay on screen and attack you as long as there's more than just one, but when there's one enemy left, they run like a coward. Here on the 5200, gameplay is very similar to the arcade. The colors look nice, it sounds great. And as I say in just about every Atari 5200 review, if you have a controller in good working condition, or a refurbished controller, or aftermarket controller, you'll get the most enjoyment out of this game. Dig Dug requires fast movements with a lot of precision. It's just a wonderful arcade game, one that should be played by everybody. If you've never played Dig Dug, I'll explain what's going on here. You can crush enemies with boulders and earn mad points. You can inflate them with your bike pump and destroy them. You get points just for digging around the map. Dig Dug is a challenging game and in some respects is similar to Pac-Man if you think about it. You can find Dig Dug for just about every video game console ever made. It's a very popular game. And I've reviewed Dig Dug for the Atari 2600, which is actually a nice version on the 2600, the Atari 7800, which is the one that I grew up with, and this one on the 5200, which is very similar to the 7800. If you're looking for the Atari 5200 game cartridge, it's not that hard to find online and doesn't cost very much. And as I said, I'm very impressed with the quality. This is one of those games that back in 82 or 83 would have been worth buying the Atari 5200 for, because while I like the Atari 2600 version of Dig Dug, this one is far more faithful to the arcade original. The original arcade machine was released in 1982, and while Dig Dug remains a very popular, well-known character today, he hasn't seen as much of a resurgence as some other 80s arcade titles like Pac-Man or Donkey Kong. I have a copy of Dig Dug 2 for the Nintendo Entertainment System. That's one I'll be reviewing someday here. I think Dig Dug needs to see a return. I'd like to see another arcade-style game, but also I think Dig Dug would make an excellent first-person shooter. Crawling your way through tunnels, inflating bad guys with bike pumps, dropping rocks on them. It would actually be a pretty cool first-person perspective game. So Namco, if you're listening, think about it. Dig Dug 3D. To this day, I still think Dig Dug needed a special weapon where he would, say, come out of the maze and then hook up a fire hose to a hydrant nearby and then just fill all the tunnels with water, thereby drowning all of the enemies. Just a thought. Not to get off subject, but there's nothing more I can say about this awesome version of Dig Dug. Who do you think would win in a steel cage match, Dig Dug or Q*bert? Honestly, I'm going to have to go with Dig Dug on that. I think that Dig Dug is ruthless. He's a bad guy. Anyone that can stomach inflating enemies with a bike pump, especially shooting them in the back as they're running away. Like, you just don't want to mess with Dig Dug. Not that Q*bert isn't a tough video game character, but he looks friendly. Dig Dug doesn't actually look all that friendly. He looks like a mean guy. What happened in his past that made him want to kill all of the underground enemies, and why did he choose a bike pump? Most game characters would have gone with a laser pistol, or at least a shotgun, but a bike pump. I mean, damn, that's cruel. Maybe his first choice was actually a chainsaw, but the bike pump had more range. It is surprising, the range of that bike pump. You can hit enemies from a fairly good distance. Anyway, I'll end it there. That's my review of Dig Dug for the Atari 5200, whether you find the 5200 version or the 2600 version or the arcade original. Dig Dug is a game that you must play.